You know, since the number is 2 around here, I was given a countdown and I never got past 3 because I got distracted. So if the number is 2, 2 things have arrived way too early here in late March in the AZ. Number 1, it always arrives too early. List season in the NFL. Everywhere you go online, it's just another list. We'll get to that in a moment. Because, you know what, I think there is a way, Danny, where we can make the lists enjoyable and palatable for Darren Urban. He's usually critical of the lists, but we'll get to that in a minute. The other thing that's arrived way too soon in the AZ is AC. The need for AC has arrived way too early. What usually is, Darren, as a native, what is usually the line of demarcation? Like, you know, April 1st, if we can make it to April Fools without turning on the AC, usually that's a win, isn't it?
I don't know what the official temperature is going to be as we speak, as it's recorded at Sky Harbor Airport. But
we set an all-time record yesterday at 93. The forecast high today was 99, maybe to 100.
I was going to say.
I was at the stadium earlier, and I walked out and looked at my phone. It said 95.
Okay, maybe we're because I was like 100, and we haven't even gotten to April yet. That's just wrong.
Which isn't fair because the typical average temperature would be around 80 for this time of year. So there we go. So with
we're all going to burn up, Paul.
It's sort of like there are 2 types of people right now in the world when it comes to March Madness. And don't share your bracket, okay? Don't share your bracket. Don't share your fantasy football team. Don't share.
You're supposed to share
a shot-by-shot recount of your golf game. There are certain things nobody wants to hear, Danny.
I want to hear about people's brackets.
I see. You do?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
I want to know what everyone picked. I want to know if I'm doing better than you.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a competition thing for Danny.
Let's test Darren on something, since he's the purveyor of everything basketball. Because there really are only 2 types of people right now. Either you believe the Derek Queen game winner for the Crab 5, Maryland, was blatant traveling, or you're wrong. It's one or the other. What do you think, Darren?
It was funny, as we watched in real time, my wife, who watches a lot of basketball because she's basically forced to, and my kids played it, her first reaction was, didn't he travel?
Thank you. Yes.
And I'm like, well, I don't know. And then I watched it a couple more times. And I'm like,
What's unbelievable is Gene Steratore, former NFL referee, in the studio show, sitting next to Barkley and Ernie and all those guys, he said it was the correct call. Well, because until you absolutely possess the basketball coming off the dribble, thou shalt not start the count of steps. And I'm like, what?
I don't know about that. And I would also say, with all due respect to Gene Steratore, is he still doing NFL games?
No, is he just he's fully retired.
Yeah.
Analyst mode.
Have you ever heard him say that the refs on the court made a bad call? I've never heard him once say that.
That's a good point. I saw a stat the other day, 25% of Google code is being written by AI. So the quicker we can get AI into some of the officiating.
No.
Get AI into the officiating.
Somebody posted.
It's coming to baseball, Darren. We saw it in spring training.
Somebody posted like a 5-second video of this girl looking into a mirror today and said, believe it or not, this is AI. There's no way anybody would be able to tell that it wasn't a girl looking in a mirror, actual video.
Ruh-roh.
No way.
Okay. All right.
It's all over. Skynet is on his way.
So looks like we're going to get some more March Madness coming up in winning behavior. Getting cultured with Danny. Any March Madness or bracket talk, Danny, that we should expect, or do you want to, give a little?
Well, one,
preview?
I wouldn't tell you, but 2, no.
Okay, that's good.
I told you last week I picked Houston.
Houston, okay.
That's where I landed with my bracket.
Okay,
that's probably a good pick.
It's not a bad pick. Okay.
Although I did not expect Missouri to take 8 minutes to score a basket in the second half when they lost to Drake. So that's enough of that.
Okay. Well,
at least Drake's beating somebody. I heard that in the other room, not laugh.
What are you talking about? The beef with Kanye West? All right, with that being the case, let's go. Before we can move forward, we got to take a step back. Remember, you're always on the record, and at any moment, you could be taken out of context.
Please tell me you're clipping that. You have to clip that one.
Can we have like an out of context blooper reel or something?
It is going to be so comical.
I've been struggling with this a little bit, I'll be honest with you. By the way, did you see Wall Street Journal last week did a story?
No.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. Jeez. Like, what are we doing here? Oh, my God. Will you stop? That's ridiculous.
You completely threw off my train of thought.
This is true. Did you ever wrestle, Paul?
No.
What was that for, Darren?
Oh my God, I could have timed you with a sundial. I was hurt, Paul.
Maybe this is where Dani needs to take over.
Yeah, don't look at me. I was good at sports.
Let the goodness persist.
What is that, a strip club?
Oh, jeez.
You can get anything there.
Wow. Okay.
I know what Paul's doing this weekend.
We're going to have some family beef on that one.
Think of like graphic tees, neon leggings, shoes, purses, sequins, homecoming dresses, whatever you need.
I 100% agree with Dani.
Although I guess it does save me from the buffering and Mike Tyson's naked rear end.
Next. Out of context,
Yes.
montage. I want that in there 3 times, please.
Mike Tyson's naked rear end, naked rear end, naked rear end.
Sounds exciting.
Hello.
Full speed ahead, baby.
This is what rejection and envy look like. This some clown bleep.
You can't write it any better.
Just so good.
This is a terrible story, Paul.
I was at mile 67 and I saw an alien spacecraft land with a bunch of cows coming out of it.
Yikes.
We'll razz them about that later.
How was your vacation, Fred?
Yeah.
Truthfully, it was utter chaos, but in a good way.
I don't know what you're talking about, Danny.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't want to go get a haircut because then I have to talk to the person giving me a haircut, and I don't want to do that.
Wins basic training.
He was essentially bald.
Pop R&B singer Normani?
Normani. He tried. Come on.
We just got bonus getting cultured.
He did.
How about that?
Great job, Paul.
That's very well done. Okay. Has a happy ending there. So through the magic of editing
Okay,
by
that
our
was
Jim
pretty good.
Alejandro,
That was pretty good.
you ostensibly, allegedly can spend your weekend at a gentleman's club. Among other aspersions cast on yours truly.
Omo, thank you for giving the Mike Tyson's naked butt 3 times per my request.
Appreciate that. A lot of nakedness apparently in that edition of Out of Context.
People are thinking, I thought this was a football podcast.
So just for that, I'm going to talk about Darren's favorite topic.
Wait,
I'm still recovering here. Go
while
ahead.
you recover, I do have one quick follow-up on that, because Out of Context, we were talking about Forever 21.
Oh, yeah.
Filing for bankruptcy. I had to run into the mall to get a birthday gift, and where I parked, the store I needed to go into, I just decided to park outside the Forever 21 entrance, walking through the store to get into the mall. So there are signs everywhere, 30 to 60% off clearance, going out of business, everything must go. And then in the back wall, when I was leaving the mall, going back to my car on the back table, they still had their pamphlets out there that said, join our team, hiring now. And that made me chuckle.
And in all its percussions, you understand now why they're going out of business. They are mismanaged. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
What's my favorite topic, Paul?
Well, pro days, throwing on air. That's your favorite, throwing on air. Because obviously Cam Ward crushed it.
Yeah.
I mean, NFL.com tweeting out, the official NFL account tweeting out in all caps, Cam Ward, oh my, fire emoji, as he rolled left and he launched a surface-to-air missile straight down the seam of the, perfect spiral, some 40 yards in the air, on the money. Hashtag double ding, Cam Ward killing it at his pro day.
We won't get too far into pro days because why? But
well, Jamarcus Russell threw it 80 yards once upon a time.
well.
I mean, Zach Wilson had that, broke the internet with that one throw.
More importantly here, is Cam Ward going number 1 for sure?
He says he is.
Well,
that's
last I
enough
checked,
for me.
He doesn't get to make that choice.
He said on NFL Network, because there was a moment after he unleashed that epic throw on air, okay, he turned after the throw and maybe even pulled a Steph Curry before the throw was even caught. I don't even know, but he looked at the Titans brass and he said, quote, I'm solidifying it today. He said, I made sure they heard that I'm solidifying it today. I'm your pick at number 1 overall.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying he's not. I think he's probably going to be the number 1 pick. But when everybody is saying all along that this quarterback class doesn't measure up to, let's say, what came out last year, like, it still doesn't change who you are when you get to the pros. One thing I did see that's interesting, and this is right down Paul's alley, Dani.
Here we go.
Seems like there's more and more people that are thinking there's going to be a third quarterback in the first round, and maybe even in the first 12 picks.
Not like last year. Let there be a 4th QB, but 3 QBs. You know what? Cardinals will take it.
What name is that? Jackson Dart?
I saw Jackson Dart. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen.
So interesting. Is it a general consensus that Shedeur Sanders is going to go top 10?
I think so.
No, not consensus, but there's quite a few of them. Yes,
I would
Right,
be
but it's
stunned if
not-
he doesn't.
Right, but in years past, which we've talked about, that's not a quarterback-heavy draft. In years past, it has been as solidified as possible to have an idea of top 10 in general, but
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about quarterbacks. And I have not seen enough to feel with as close to 100% certainty as you do this time most years with quarterbacks to say that Sanders is going to go top 10.
Here's why I'm going to say Sanders is going to go top 10. Because Anthony Richardson went 4.
Yep.
Because Mitch Trubisky went 2.
That's a very good argument.
Like,
Zach Wilson went too.
yeah.
Because when there's a need, there's still a need.
Shadur Sanders is going to go top 10. Because even if it's not one of those 10 teams, somebody's going to want to trade up to get him if he starts falling, which I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to go top 5, actually.
So if you're New York at 3 and you just signed Jameis Winston, are you taking a quarterback at 3? Or is that your sign of saying we don't want to take a quarterback at 3?
Well, you got to have a bridge quarterback, obviously different front office. But once upon a time, the Giants signed Kurt Warner, and right before they ended up getting Eli Manning in the draft. I mean, that's what you do. The question is Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers for the Giants play into this? Somebody made the argument that if they were able to get Russell Wilson for a song, and they might add him with Jameis Winston and still draft Shadur Sanders. And what an incredible quarterback room that would be.
Yes, it would. That would be New York, New York. That would be worthy.
Goodness gracious.
I think it was Cowherd. It was a national radio show. I'm driving in, and I almost had to pull over and reassess life when he said the hot take currently making the rounds is the Niners and Brock Purdy don't come to an agreement. They signed Mac Jones for a reason. Somebody they liked, allegedly almost drafted back when they took Trey Lance. Traded up to get Trey Lance when they could have just stayed and selected Mac Jones. And then they bring home the NorCal native himself, Aaron Rodgers,
We're back to that, Paul.
to play for the 49ers.
Paul's from the Bay Area.
Might
He
be
just,
Every
one
year
reason
this
why
is
Aaron Rodgers is
brought
holding
up.
up. That would be the one and only
I thought he
mention
hated the 49ers.
of Aaron Rodgers. Actually, on Red Sea Report, Kyle Vandenbosch was then prompted to say, that would be one reason I could come out of retirement is an opportunity to sack Aaron Rodgers. So
he would play for the Cardinals?
What
think-
an interesting decision if you decide to not sign Brock Purdy and you go with Aaron Rodgers, who would sign for seemingly a 1-year, maybe a 2-year deal with all the changes the 49ers are going to be going through. You would think you would want a quarterback to kind of have some consistency and be a solid spot to help you win games as opposed to just making that more difficult for you as well.
I thought Aaron Rodgers had already alienated everybody that he knows in Northern California.
just his family.
Oh, just his family.
Mainly
Paul.
just his family.
Not Paul.
By the way, it's the last place 49ers. That's my bad. Dang, I got to remember to attach that in there.
But obviously, if we're talking about a third quarterback,
Yeah. Okay, so here's
that helps the Cardinals, right?
Yes.
And with who might be there.
There are a number of mock drafts that have the Jets going quarterback Jackson Dart at 7, which actually now,
that's
believe it or not, allows yours truly to bring up, let there be a 4th QB at 16. Could the Cardinals a year later maximize that, like Tyler Shuck? Perhaps maybe climbing the boards, and if there's
You're talking about the Cardinals trading the 16th
out of
pick.
16 because there's a team desperate enough for a quarterback.
At 21, maybe Pittsburgh? Is that what you're thinking?
Exactly. There are at least a half dozen quarterback desperate teams right now, and I wonder if once you get out of the top 7 or 8, you get a lot of similarly graded players, which seems to be the consensus. Isn't that what Daniel Jeremiah and the likes told you at the Combine, right? Okay, if that's the case, and then all of a sudden you can get extra picks, and because the similar level of player is going to be available either at 16 or 21, 16 or you trade with Houston, if they get back in business with Houston, we know Monti and Nick Caserio, and you're more towards the back end of the first round. I could see that.
So, knowing what we know about Monti, I'll pose this to both of you. We'll start with Dani. We would think that if there is a trade with the Cardinals in the first round, it's back. Don't we? Wouldn't we think that?
Yes.
We wouldn't think there's any way they trade up, right?
I'm gonna go opposite on that, and not just to go contrarian. It's something I said a
it's
couple of
for
weeks
the
ago.
content.
Yeah,
For the content.
a couple of weeks ago. What I say? We're moving from quantity to quality.
Okay.
So if indeed you value quality and you're going to be more targeted and precise in your player acquisition, a couple of spots, then guess what? For example, there's a mock draft out there right now, NFL.com, and it's the Cardinals moving up. Here it is, Chad Reeder. Your favorite, Darren. It's a 4-round mock with trades.
Whoa.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
How can you not dig into the 4th round?
So at number 13 overall, the Cardinals trade up with the Miami Dolphins, and they select All-American tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, who's been a dude from day one. He was a freshman All-American. So they give up their 3rd round in exchange for a late 4th round.
Late 4th round. You're basically sacrificing, I think it was like 50-some spots in the draft to move up. Now, I don't mean to, but I just want to jump on this real quick. Did you cut and paste the whole thing, or did you just do the little trade?
I sort of picked a few things out of that, cut and pasted. Yeah.
So one of the things that cracked me up about that potential trade is then if you then read what he's saying about the Dolphins being able to drop to 16, is if they drop to 16, they should still be able to get. It was like defensive lineman or an edge, or maybe even a couple of offensive linemen. Banks ? Booker ? And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Why would the Cardinals move up to 13 if they could still get a quality offensive lineman at 16? That makes no sense.
Okay, here's what I would say, is that based on reading about Kelvin Banks Jr., for example, at 16, maybe you could still get Tyler Booker, the guard. You get Gray Zabel, the guard. Kelvin Banks Jr. is an All-American left tackle.
Yep.
And so the thinking is you put him inside his rookie year, and then all of a sudden he becomes your franchise right tackle starting 26. So now it's Paris Johnson Jr. and Kelvin Banks Jr., and boom, there's your franchise tackles.
You start him inside.
At guard.
At guard.
Which side?
Oh.
You just re-signed Evan Brown.
Right now he'd be your right. For me, especially if I'm thinking about playing him at right tackle long term, I'm playing him at right guard.
Good point. Yeah. And then you let maybe Isaiah Adams and Evan Brown battle for left guard.
I like the idea. I still like the idea, to contradict myself a bit, of moving up for that reason. No, but I still think it is more likely to trade down just because there are other positions of need where you can still get a top quality player and you can add some draft capital. Now, that could be a situation, and it really feels like an offensive lineman is the most likely scenario given the offseason acquisitions that have already been made by the Cardinals. If they are going to move up from 16, it seems likely it would be for an offensive lineman that is still a need, not an incredibly deep draft class. So that would make sense. I would still feel like it would be more likely, though, to trade down. So I would understand it. It's not like I'd be up in arms of,
no,
what are you doing? Like, and especially if you're talking about a difference between rounds 3 or 4, that range of 50 picks, I'm okay with that. It feels like it would be more likely to trade down.
I'm with you. I agree. And I don't have an issue with you trading up, because the difference between trading up and trading down is when you're trading up, you are targeting a player. When you're trading down, you're saying, I have this pool of players. But I go back to, again, you already referenced this, what Dani and Craig Relu got out of the combine with all those conversations was, is there that much difference between somebody at 13 and somebody at 16? Now, another thing I got out of those conversations, I listen to your work. It's good work. There are significantly fewer offensive linemen that you're willing to throw in on, especially starting as a rookie, as opposed to defensive linemen, for instance, or edge guys. So that would be a reason you'd want to move up, and if you really feel like, okay, Banks is that guy or Booker is that guy, you're going to want to try and get him.
And I know, and I'm guilty of this too. We always cite, Monty's going to trade down and maximize picks. That's the Monty way. Let Monty cook. But wait a minute. Once upon a time, what did he do? He did trade back up.
That's true.
And target Paris Johnson Jr.
He's also drafted 4 offensive linemen in his tenure in Arizona.
And to me, there's still a big-time interior offensive lineman coming, either the very back end of free agency or in the draft. That's just me. That's my expectation.
I don't disagree with you, but my question becomes, if you're talking free agency, who are we talking about?
There are a few veterans still out there.
I think Scherf's the only one still out there, right? Yeah.
By the way, this same, and this gets us to our next topic here, this same mock draft, because of course it went 4 rounds, Darren. In round 2.
Why not 7? Who's being lazy here, Paul?
Well, there is a 7-rounder out there. We'll get to that next week. Jalen Noel, wide receiver out of Iowa State, number 47 overall to the Arizona Cardinals, 5'10", 194. He's the dude who ran the 4.39 40. He's a first-team All-Big 12 return man. Honorable mention receiver in the Big 12. See, if I'm taking him high second round or mid second round, I'd want that to be the inverse. I'd want him to be first team position and then honorable mention return.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
and then when it says here, drops have been a problem at times in his career. To me, that's a hard no in round 2. But it seems to be a popular pick. Wide receiver now or corner to the Arizona Cardinals in the first 2 rounds.
He also, 5'10", that would be one of the shorter receivers in that room, with the exception of Greg Dortch.
Which we know they're not a big fan of.
Right. They like size and they like length. So I don't know. And that's not to say, hey, you don't hit this mark, we're not going to consider you. I don't know that would be the right fit for what they're kind of looking for when you're looking at the receivers already in that room to use on spot 47. I do think there is a need for a wide receiver. And I know that was a question brought up in your mailbag, which
Thank you
I
for reading,
appreciated.
Dani.
Yes. See, your work is good. I read your work. It was
Touche.
an interesting point.
I'm a little thrown. You guys are actually lobbing compliments at each other as opposed to the opposite. Go ahead.
I value Dani Sureck.
Okay.
Oh, God, that just got
out of
something.
context.
Wow.
Well, the question was brought up of why we are talking about the need for another receiver when you have Michael Wilson. And Michael Wilson has been a good addition to this team. There is still a drop-off behind Marvin Harrison Jr. And when I'm looking at the receiving stats from this past year, Michael Wilson had the same amount of receptions as running back James Conner. Now, it was 47, so that's a good amount. So you're getting Conner involved, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean he can't make an impact. I'm just saying I don't know that Wilson has solidified the solid, absolutely guaranteed number 2 spot. For now, yes. I think you can still find another player that can maybe be a little more threatening on a consistent basis to allow Harrison to kind of open up the field a little bit more. I still love the idea of not even necessarily getting a receiver to compete with Wilson, but instead getting a speedy threat, somebody in the slot that you can use, or some kind of player to really open the field in those deep passing games, and that will allow Michael Wilson to open up and be a stronger number 2. It's not a knock on Wilson and what he's done and what he's capable of doing by any means. You're just missing something. And even if it's not competition for Wilson to be that number 2 outside opposite of Marvin Harrison Jr., it could be a speedy receiver to go deep for you or be inside the slot. There is something still that receiving room, which we talked about all season, has to do something to elevate because the passing game was not consistent.
First of all, Joy, I hope you enjoyed that answer from Dani. That was for you. I think it's funny when you look, if you take the names away and the positions away, I'd be curious, and I have not done this, I'd be curious if you looked up the receiving totals for a lot of NFL teams, how the reception breakdown would be. Because what did Marvin end up with, 68 catches?
62.
62 catches. Obviously, that needs to be better. But if you said the number 1 pass catcher on your team had 111 receptions, the number 2 guy had 62, the next 2 were tied at 47. I'm wondering if that ratio would be that far off of most teams.
Well, thing is, with Marvin Harrison Jr., 62 catches and how many targets again? Wasn't there 100?
116.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying it doesn't need to be improved, but the question then becomes, because right now we're talking about adding a receiver.
Okay.
Is the lack of another kind of receiver why Marvin Harrison had a bad ratio of targets to catches?
Well, I will say this, considering how often he got extra attention from secondaries, yes, the Cardinals need to make those defenses pay more often. There needs to be another receiver to get fat, and the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting an inordinate amount of defensive attention. So to take everything you guys just said and boil it down in the form of a question, Michael Wilson on the Cardinals depth chart is the number 2 receiver. Is he a number 2 receiver in the NFL? Meaning, do you need to look for a number 2 receiver right now if you're Monti Ossenfort? He might be number 2 on your depth chart, but did they find out last year that maybe he's closer to a number 3 receiver, and you need a legit number 2 to come in, a more proven entity. I'm not saying Michael Wilson doesn't still have upside. He can't still be that guy. But right here, right now, known versus unknown. For example, here's another list for you. Best NFL team fits for notable remaining free agents. NFL.com late last week, number 1 on the list, Amari Cooper to the Arizona Cardinals. Okay. We asked Jacoby Brissett about that, his former teammate, and he raved about Amari Cooper.
I'm sure. But here's my question. If you add Amari Cooper to this team, what is he bringing you?
Okay. Can I answer that? Here we go.
Please do.
Hopefully he's bringing a lot of experience.
Well, he's definitely bringing that. That's one thing you can't take away from Amari Cooper is his experience.
That he can share with Marvin Harrison Jr. as a number 1.
I'm not bringing in a guy to teach my dude in the locker room. If I'm bringing in Amari Cooper, he better end up playing like a number 2 receiver. Right. I don't know if he's that anymore.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were disagreeing on that. You don't think Amari Cooper can be a legit number 2 receiver in this league right now?
What has he done the last 2 years that makes you think that?
I mean, there were teams that gave up quite a bit for Amari Cooper. Now, did he end up being the number 1 receiver? No. But to me, without crunching the film like Daniel Jeremiah.
No, I get it. But he literally disappeared off the face of the earth for Buffalo.
Yeah. Somehow he lost.
And they got him to be somebody they really needed.
Well, he got hurt, right? Wasn't it injuries?
I thought he just wasn't. He fell out of favor.
The last 5 games, he was not a big part of their offense.
And this is something else. It came up in the mailbag. Somebody brought up a different question saying, why the Cardinals have all this cap space. Why wouldn't they get somebody, for example, like Amari Cooper? We don't know all right now. If Amari Cooper is asking for $10 million for 1 season, no thanks.
Yeah. No, this is presumably like later in free agency. Okay. He has to take a 1-year prove-it deal. Now, look,
I've watched this team do Michael Crabtree, so I'm very, very...
That's true. But off the top of my head, I mean, like, for example, Keon Coleman was a bigger part because he was injured. He came back. I think he took a lot of the targets away from Amari Cooper the last month or 2. Khalil Shakir just got a big contract. He ended up being Josh Allen's favorite receiving target. He obviously has the 2 tight ends. Right, and he was throwing to James Cook out of the backfield.
I guess for me, skill set wise, I don't know what he's bringing to the table that you don't already have from Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison. He's not going to bring you any speed. He's on the back half of his career. I'm not saying it won't work or couldn't happen, but I just think it's way too easy of a.
I mean, it's 3rd and 11 against the Rams in Week 4. Uh-huh. Who's better equipped to make the savvy veteran play and get you that first down at this point? Amari Cooper or Michael Wilson? I guess that's what to me, like an Amari Cooper would be akin to like a Keenan Allen, right? Just that guy.
I get it.
Who knows exactly what he's doing, can make those big catches in the big moments.
Wasn't Zay Jones supposed to be that guy?
He was. And so did they get a true read on Zay Jones because missing the first 6 games and never getting into the rotation and missing all that practice time with Kyler Murray?
Well, because that was the other point I made in the mailbag. Is Amari Cooper really any better than Zay Jones at this point? And you already have Zay Jones.
And that is a valid question. That is a valid question. I mean, did you really get a true read and gauge of what Zay Jones is at this point in his career?
And I'm asking, Danny, because we're dominating the conversation, unfortunately. If your wide receiver room, top 4 guys, no offense to Greg Dortch, if your top 4 guys are Marvin Harrison, Amari Cooper, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, does that work for you? There's very little top-end speed with that group.
I would almost see this as if you're bringing in Amari Cooper, does that guarantee somebody like Zay Jones makes the final roster?
Well, and that may
right. So that's kind of where
where
my mind is when we're having this conversation. Is Zay Jones re-signed for a 1-year contract?
Yes.
Right. So, and these players, not even just Jones, but a lot of these players, you have to have 90 players throughout the offseason, right? Going into training camp. So not everybody's going to make the final 53. So even players who are re-signing doesn't necessarily guarantee that they will be on the roster come the regular season. So when we're talking about Amari Cooper, that's the competition kind of going through my mind when you're playing a numbers game. Now, I do think Cooper would compete with Michael Wilson for that number 2 spot out there. But when you're talking about spots and the veteran presence and what they bring, I wouldn't see it as Cooper versus Wilson. I would see the numbers game more as the veterans of Cooper versus Jones for a spot.
First of all, I want to make this very clear because we've said his name an awful lot. There is nothing percolating that we know of Amari Cooper and the Cardinals. We were just taking
Good
this thing that
point.
we saw on the internet and we're making a conversation about it.
I'm blaming NFL.com.
That's good. The other thing, too, is that might be another reason why they haven't signed a veteran receiver yet, or a veteran cornerback, which I do want to get to real quick, is if you're bringing somebody in that you're not 100% sure is going to make the roster, you definitely don't want to bring them in with a bunch of guaranteed money because you want that option later.
Absolutely.
And so that might be something else. Like, to Paul's point, I could see them making a signing later that gives them the option, like, okay, we want you, we're going to bring you in, but if you don't have the mustard anymore, you won't be here when the season starts.
I think it was Lance Zierlein, 2.0 NFL.com, and he had the Cardinals trading down with Houston, so late first round, and then taking Luther Burden III, receiver out of Mizzou.
Look at that.
I do not see that happening. I don't think they
Trading down for a receiver.
They don't take a
No.
round one receiver.
I don't see that.
Unless they think Luther Burden is like next level, and
Maybe.
they can't believe he's on the board
You know.
at 25 or
What
whatever.
I don't like seeing is a lot of these mock drafts have the Seahawks taking the U of A kid, Tetaroa McMillan, and he's a dude.
But they're 18?
They're 18.
I don't think he makes the 18.
At 6'5", and I mean he's a player.
Yeah, he would be. That would
and
be an
to add
issue.
him to Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp at $15 million a year. I mean, by the way, how does Cooper Kupp get $15 million a year? And based on Cooper Kupp getting $15 million a year, maybe we're undervaluing a lot of these receivers at this point. Maybe,
we're undervaluing, or they're thinking they deserve
or maybe
more.
they think they do. Yeah, maybe that's just completely wrecked the market. Maybe Amari
Maybe.
Cooper is expecting
Maybe
big
the
money
wide
like that.
receivers had a big
That's
Zoom call.
fair. But to the cornerback thing real quick, because I did want to get to that, I find it interesting. Speaking of mock drafts, if you go to Pro Football Focus, they have a mock draft simulator, and they usually have 3 or 4 of the top needs for each team. So if you're seeing what the team needs as you're going through it. And what was interesting to me was for the Cardinals, before free agency started, the 3 needs, I believe, it was guard, defensive line, and
Got to be edge.
it wasn't edge. I don't think it was edge. It was guard, defensive line. It was.
Were they
It might have been
combining like
tackle.
edge
It
and
might have been-
defensive line?
It might have been guard, tackle, and defensive line. Maybe. What was interesting to me was after free agency was over, they took tackle out of there, I think, but they've added cornerback, and I think that's interesting because I don't.
So I told Craig Greeley, we were standing there, it was the dog days of camp last year, so it's mid-August, and I'm looking, and we had a conversation, doesn't matter, and I said, you know what, right here, right now, in August 2024, this team goes corner round 1 next year. Now, Starling Thomas ended up, I think, being better than we thought. He started 22 games in the last 2 years as an undrafted dude. I think Max Melton played a lot better in December and January. Obviously, Garrett Williams ended up like top 3 in the PFF cornerback ratings. So there's more there than I think we all thought, or at least I thought, last August. But, for example, Mel Kiper's latest mock draft has the Cardinals going with Will Johnson as a corner, 6'2", ridiculously athletic. Mel Kiper says he's a pick 6 waiting to happen, quote, end quote. Now, he had some injury issues and played just under half a season for Michigan last year, so maybe his value, maybe he's a little undervalued because of the injury last year.
It's funny because he's a guy that I've seen some scouting reports, and they're like he's a playmaker, but he's a playmaker in space. They're like, this is not a guy you leave on an island.
Okay, well, that would change everything. You're not taking if that's the case.
This is
I don't take him
a guy
16th
that
overall.
you use him in a zone more often and let him make plays on the ball.
Okay, all right. I mean, because look at your division now, right? Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, 2 big receivers for the Rams, and if the Seahawks stink and get
Quit
T-Mac,
talking that into into
just
existence.
saying, you got to figure a few of these things out. By the way, there was another one that came out with the Cardinals, and it was the most improved units via Pro Football Focus after free agency. And the Cardinals made the list. They went from the 5th lowest graded defensive line in the NFL last season, and in response, they invested nearly $125 million in its defensive front in free agency. That's what they had Pro Football Focus. I don't know if that all equates if you take all the money, all that. But
Well, once we saw the contract details are out on the internet from the people that collect that stuff, and the Cardinals didn't do too bad with those deals.
No.
I mean, yes, the Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson could max out at a pretty good level, but
in today's dollars, well bought in a lot of ways.
They are well bought.
I mean,
and I do think the Cardinals looked hard at some other players in free agency. It might have gotten a little too pricey for a couple of them. I know Josh Sweat at one point said right after, as he was getting off the press conference podium, that him and Milton Williams were trying to end up in the same place. I don't know if that would have been the Cardinals, but as we know with the Panthers, they got priced out of Milton Williams too.
Yeah, there were at least a couple of reports.
I shouldn't say two. I don't know about the Cardinals.
But there were a couple of reports. The Cardinals and Panthers went into the very end, and then the Patriots came in and just wrote the blank check.
Yep.
So, all right, let me get your opinion on this, and then we'll get cultured with Dani here. So they have
favorite part.
Breakout candidates post-free agency. This is according to FoxSports.com. Across the NFL, they have J.J. McCarthy, breakout candidate, Justin Fields with the Jets, Milton Williams, Ricky Pearsall with the last place 49ers. Okay, they go their top. How about the Cardinals? Give me your top 2 or 3 breakout candidates currently on the roster for this coming year. Does anyone jump out, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first, Paul.
For the name that pops out immediately, I don't know about number 2, but number 1 is B.J. Ojulari.
That's a good one.
Good one. Yep.
I would say somebody that, in terms of making a jump, Darius Robinson is a guy that, I mean, we've now named 2 people that not only are we hoping to jump, they absolutely have to jump.
Critical.
Have to.
Yeah. I have Isaiah Adams. We already talked about him a little bit. I think he's a sleeper. If he has a really good offseason, I think that could be a breakout year.
Okay, so my question to you on that is, you were talking about how they need to bring in another interior offensive lineman. If you feel strongly about Isaiah Adams, how strong do you feel, Paul?
No, you're right. I might not know much, but I know this much. They know a lot better than us what they have under the hood over there in Isaiah Adams, so maybe they are penciling him in for a starting gig.
You could also, sometimes you just got to get the good players and find a way to make it work. If there is an interior offensive lineman that you think could be a pillar on that offensive line for years to come with a Paris Johnson Jr., with an Isaiah Adams, you still take that player and you have them get stronger, get bigger, get some reps on the offensive line. And Evan Brown signed for a 1-year deal as your left guard. So that's not something you're locked into for 4 or 5 years at this point. You could get a player, kind of mold them to what you want, and then you could shuffle around if you need to in a year.
And again, this is such a football cliche, but you want to collect as many good players as you can. Somebody asked me about Christian Jones. Well, wait a minute. All this talk about another tackle, when Jonah Williams leaves, I thought that's why they got Christian Jones. Well, if Christian Jones balls out, then they're going to be. But he was a 5th-round pick. You don't know exactly what you're going to get out of him. You get everybody good, and then if you end up having, 3 or 4 guys that could legit be long-term tackles, you can trade one of them.
There are worse problems to have.
Yes.
By the way,
I have some of them.
After you go through 15 different offensive linemen by the end of the season.
That's also true.
Kelvin Beachum starting at right tackle. He's starting at left tackle. You got Christian Jones starting in the season finale. You got Charlie Heck off the practice squad, off the street. I mean, dudes you don't even recognize or dressed on game day. So there is no such thing as too much depth at offensive line, at least the way things have been trending in the last couple of years. A couple other quick names I had on this breakout candidate list. I had Trey Benson, number 2.
That's a good one.
Baron Browning, number 3.
Fingers crossed.
Then I had D-Rob, Akeem Davis Gaither, perhaps this year's Mack Wilson Sr. We'll see.
Or even Kaiser White.
Number 6, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay, that's fair.
I still think there's a lot of upside. Okay, there you go, Darren.
There we go.
You just declared it. It's time to get culture. Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go. For those not watching and just listening, I don't know why, but Paul just had a pen coming out of his ear. What am I missing there?
Long ways, not short ways, right?
No, it's like that's my version of pin the tail on the donkey. I always feel like I'm the dartboard.
Thought maybe you were clearing some space in there.
No,
First of all,
the editing just keeps using me as an easy mark.
Paul does not get enough credit for using the word Philistine. That's number one. Number two, just breaking across social media as we record.
Oh boy,
Russell Wilson heading to the Giants.
No way. You
So you're
called
gonna
it.
have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Now maybe they are taking Travis Hunter or whoever they are going to take.
Oh my gosh.
they giving him his own office. No, that's such
Dude,
a
if
Denver
they take
Broncos
if they
thing.
take Shedeur Sanders,
What a room.
oh my goodness.
Okay,
gracious.
here we go.
All
You
right,
guys
here we
ready
go.
to get cultured?
Yeah, let's do it.
I've never been more ready to
Okay.
be cultured.
Snow White, the live action reenactment, a movie musical, bombs on opening weekend.
Oh,
A reported $87 million globally, just $43 million domestically, which sounds like a lot. I guess is not high enough for what Disney typically has for movies like that.
I'm going to state for the record, I haven't seen the new Snow White. I at one point tried to watch that live action Lion King they did, or the CGI one and I'm like, I just feel like if it was done really well, there's another movie I think coming out that they're redoing as a live action that is an animated film, and I'm trying to remember
Lilo
what it
and
was.
Stitch.
Yeah, that's the one. And I'm like, why?
So
For who?
good
For
point.
what?
Good point. Okay, this one could be a little scary for some people. 23andMe files for bankruptcy. The CEO is resigning. Reported 15 million DNA samples have been collected by 23andMe. So I don't know, does that mean that the highest bidder just gets everybody's DNA samples? How does that work?
Not ideal.
suboptimal.
If we see a
Is that what you're
second Paul
saying?
Calvisi roaming the streets in a
Between
couple of years.
AI and cloning from 23andMe DNA.
This came up last night. My wife's really good friend actually participated in this whole process. The
With
problem
23andMe?
is, unless your relatives somewhere in your
Yes.
family tree
Also
are not
good.
in the database, it's of no use to you,
Oh, interesting. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know
So-
they also do the DNA testing for dogs? You can figure out what breed your dog is. I just want to throw that out there if you have any desire to do that with Cheeto.
Whether the dog ever took Ozempic or not.
I'm still bitter over the weight loss for dogs. Somebody stole my
Paul's
$1 billion
Ozempic
idea.
Okay.
Speaking of stealing Cheeto, it was turns out that socks were a gateway crime. He's now stealing flip-flops. Now that it's now that we're getting to 100 degrees, he's ripping off flip-flops around the house.
That's
So
never good.
yeah, incarceration is in his
I'm
future.
imagining Paul running around the house barefoot yelling at
I'm gonna-
Cheeto to
I'm
give
gonna
him his
start
flip flop back.
I'm going to start a Scared Straight training program. Here we go.
Monday was the 24-year anniversary of Randy Johnson killing a bird with a pitch
Oh,
at a
geez.
spring training game. Fun
Yeah.
fact, Mark Dalton from the Media Relations Department found Kyler Murray's uncle, Calvin Murray, was at the plate.
Yes.
Small world.
Facts.
So obviously, every time a Diamondbacks pitcher kills a bird in a spring training game, they win the World Series.
I mean, I literally remember where I was in the newsroom when that video came down, and I think we might have led the stinky newscast with it.
Oh, I'm sure you
Who
did.
cleans
If
that
it
up?
bleeds, it leads, Paul.
yes, you know,
Literally.
I mean, it's. By the way, what Randy Johnson did to that bird, he did to a lot of us media members when we asked him for an interview in the clubhouse.
I'm trying to
Just
imagine
saying.
Paul walking up to a 6'10" Randy Johnson and asking
Oh,
for a comment.
let me tell you. Here's a famous story. Okay, well, not famous, I guess, in my own mind. There we were. It was after it was after opening day, 99, because he signed the second year, 99, and everyone is terrified in the local media to talk to him because he was so stinking intimidating.
Yeah.
On game day, even his own teammates would not approach him. He had a moat around him of about 30 feet in the clubhouse. So, but it's the day after his opening day start, and he's, it's batting practice 2 hours before the game, and I got my Channel 5 microphone, and I'm like, you know what? Go down swinging. Do what I do best. I walk over. Geez, Mr. Johnson, you got a moment for a couple of questions? He looks at me, looks down at me, and goes, all right, make it quick. I go to put my mic in with my first question. I get absolutely bombarded and blitzkrieged and blindsided from behind. I get crushed up against the wall. I'm like this because every one of these freeloaders jumped me, and there's like 25 of these weak sauce, cowardly
That's never happened to me before,
media
Paul. I don't know what you're
colleagues
talking about.
jump my exclusive. Still bitter about it.
Wow, sorry to have brought this
Sorry.
up. Would you guys rather
we go.
see a bird get killed with a pitch or see a dead whale?
Is that anniversary coming up again? No, that was during
Wait
the
a minute.
season.
I thought it was the dead whale getting blown up.
Yeah, the whale
Which
was
would you
already
rather
dead.
see, I guess, blown up? The dead whale or the bird?
If we're going to go
Yeah.
down that, what about somebody dying on a plane and having to sit next to him?
Okay,
Oh,
I didn't
boy.
need to be reminded
Wow.
of that. Next
Okay.
on my list,
Fear unlocked.
a new ASU coach, Molly Miller, the new women's basketball coach, formerly at GCU, 32-3 record this season with GCU. So she's just moving on over from one part of the valley to the next.
They say she looks like Liv Dunn.
And then lastly, on my list, I know Darren knows about this, Paul. I'm curious if you do. Have you heard or seen the influencer Ashton Hall take over social media with his vlogs?
Please tell me.
Absolutely not.
Yes. Okay, here we go, Paul.
Because Danny was so mad at me.
There
when I knew
is
about
this influencer. His name is Ashton, and it seems like his shtick is kind of routines and tips for men of how to kind of better their life and be successful and all of those things. He had a morning routine vlog that went absolutely viral. And by
Okay.
the time this episode's over, it's probably going to be done with the meme cycle.
I mean, not that I need any of those things, but go
Here we
ahead,
go.
lay it on me anyway.
His morning routine, he wakes up, and the vlog, it's all time-stamped, okay? So he wakes up at 3:52 in the morning
Allegedly.
and pours his first cup of, it has to be Saratoga spring water, which is now just being
no.
swept off the shelves, a
Okay.
specific bottled water. Goes on the balcony at 4 in the morning, just does a few push-ups, and then goes and puts his face in his first of many bowls of ice water, again, only the bottled water, and soaks his face. And then he puts on his jewelry, he runs on the treadmill for a few minutes. But one of the funniest parts was he then goes to his apartment complex pool, and the timestamp has him diving into the pool at 4:36 in the morning.
Allegedly.
And then it has him in the pool at 4:40. So everybody has had fun kind of making a mockery of it that he was floating in the air for 4 minutes. Then he showers, he goes in the hot tub. He gets dressed. He puts his face in his second bowl of ice water. And then after eating a banana, he rubs his face with the banana peel. And then he gets dressed with the help of a faceless woman. She's helping him tie his tie and put his jewelry back on. And he's on a quote unquote work call. And all he says to the person on the other end of this like interview or Zoom call is, yeah, bro, I think we got to get him up to like at least 10,000. And then that's it. And that's his day. He does a whole bunch of nothing, allegedly, from like 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. And so everybody has kind of made a mockery of this. But I did find something so interesting to tie it all back to the NFL.
No, you didn't.
Yes,
There's
I
no
did.
way you can tie that
Somebody
to the NFL.
found a tweet, because there's always a tweet.
Okay.
June 17th, 2020.
It turns out this guy is actually Aaron
The
Rodgers.
Baltimore Ravens tweeted that they had waived 5 players, including Ashton Hall, who was a DB.
Yes.
Okay.
He played in college. I did
I
see
see.
that. I did see that.
Okay.
The thing
You got to go
is
look at this guy's vlog.
The
And you've been
hilarious
cultured,
part
you're
is
welcome.
he
So
doesn't.
are we saying it's identity theft or just a coincidence?
Oh no, that's him.
Okay, okay.
He's a. But the best part is like he doesn't get that people are making fun of him.
He thinks people are stealing his content.
He actually made another video.
I mean, there's
saying,
no way this is even a real timestamp of a morning vlog. Most of his time was spent setting up his tripod and hitting record.
If he's in the pool at 4:36 in the morning, it's dark out, right?
Not in the video.
Yeah, not in the video.
Just saying. I mean,
And then it's funny, I saw somebody zoom in, and when he was diving, you can see on the wall behind him, there's a sign that says no diving.
My favorite part is all the people saying morning routine, and they shoot the video exactly the same, and it's some dude like waking up at like 1:14 p.m. And then at like 1:17 p.m. you see like coming out of the bathroom. And
So if you've seen people or companies, organizations tweet out a bowl of ice water and a banana, then you understand what
I
they are
think a couple
referencing.
teams did it, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
well, wasn't there?
I feel
the,
very cultured now.
Wasn't the artist who took the banana and the duct tape and put it up on the
Yes.
frame and
Yes.
it fetched 7-8 figures?
I mean, it's not selling a
Yeah.
Pokemon Cheeto,
Right.
not the dog, but an
Yeah,
actual Cheeto.
Yeah. Can I ask what inevitably will be a dumb guy question here? At what point do you achieve the influencer title? By how many followers do you have to be declared and deemed an influencer?
I don't think it just has to be followers at this point, because from what we saw from March Madness, Amir or Khan, the McNeese State basketball
Yeah,
manager
okay.
who was walking out with the chain and the boombox, I don't know if he's quote unquote an influencer, but he became big without a big number of followers and has now inked a couple NIL deals.
12.
crazy.
No, I saw his boombox was
Yes.
sponsored, but wait a minute,
It's up
a
to 12.
dozen.
By the time
NIL deals.
McNeese State got eliminated from the tournament, he was up to 12, and I think he was still talking to other people. Now, I will say to him, we're going to call him Aura here because that's what everybody's calling him.
But once
He
McNeese
wasn't-
gets eliminated, what sort of influence does he have on anything or anyone?
Well, he's not at McNeese anymore because Will Wade, the coach from McNeese that just took the NC State job,
Oh, no.
hired him as a graduate assistant.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I will say that he wasn't trying to be an influencer. They videotaped him singing the rap song with all the basketball players coming out to a practice or a game before the tournament started. That went viral, and then it all went from there. Which, by the way,
He'll probably retire by age 30 as a basketball manager.
the rules of the NCAA tournament won't let managers sit on the bench. That's what that's why he was sitting in the stands in the
that's a
NCAA
weird
tournament. That's
rule.
There's no room
lame.
for him because there's 18 different assistant coaches
Also
in
true.
basketball these days. So
By the way, that your guy Ashton Hall, he's got like 18 million followers on Instagram or something.
Wow. Yeah, but you never know who's a bot.
This is fair.
okay, yeah. So
Speaking of health, I'm gonna jump over to this
Yes.
offensive line thing.
that's exactly where I was going.
Okay, because
Okay.
I'm gonna segue from having the right morning routine to the fact that there was a somebody did a chart that basically said the percentage of snaps that a team's most together 5-man offensive line. So that got confusing there, but essentially the 5 players that a team used the most last year, not necessarily your starters, but who they had to use the most, that combination,
Okay.
how often they play together. And the Cardinals' top 5-man group only played barely over, I think it was like 19.9%.
Well, that's not surprising because Jonah Williams, as your right tackle,
Well-
got hurt in Buffalo week 1, and then shortly
got
after
hurt again.
then got hurt again after coming back, and
Right.
shortly after losing Williams the first time, Will Hernandez as your right guard went down,
Right, again.
and then Paris Johnson Jr. missed a few games.
But you would think that they would still have a group that was together for 40 to 50% of the time, even though those guys got hurt.
Right.
But they didn't.
And they were using a rotation at right guard.
Well, that's true. But like the rotation at right guard, if you go back and look, there was only a couple times where they really split it like 50-50. Most of the time it
Interesting.
was like they'd give them like 8 to 10
Well,
snaps, right?
And I saw your blog post, and I did not recall. I knew like the 2008 offensive line was largely intact. I did not realize it was the same 5 for all 20 games that counted. 16 regular season games and all 4 postseason games. It was the same 5.
Mike Gandy left tackle, Reggie Wells left guard, Lyle Senline center, Deuce Latouille right guard, and the great Levi Brown, who everybody wanted to hate on, but the dude always played at right tackle. And I will say this, I was so into that blog post that I found the information at the end of the day. I was all ready to go home, and I was going to go through every single game of the 2008 season and figure out the snaps of how many snaps they play together, but they weren't keeping snaps back then. And
That was your wise guy
can't-
trivia memory on display.
Well, yeah. Again, don't remember any of my cousins' names. Don't remember certain things, but I can remember the offensive line.
The
from
important stuff.
2008.
See, Darren's Q rating actually has been going up in the offseason because there's no wise guy trivia. Because, let's face it, most of the underground followers and listeners and viewers, I mean, they have Darren fatigue, sort of like the nation had Chiefs fatigue,
Are
right?
you wanting wise guy trivia to come back?
I'm
more
just
in
saying,
the
it's in
offseason?
Darren's best
Chiefs
interest.
fatigue.
Yeah, it's
I thought you
Darren-
said cheese fatigue, and I'm like, what?
Chiefs
People have
fatigue.
problem with cheese?
Doesn't
Chiefs
exist.
fatigue. Darren was more annoying than the Geico pig, that you see on
Yeah,
all the.
I love the fact they brought him back, and then
no,
after
you're not. No.
2 of the 4 days, I'm like, yeah, this is enough.
That's just brutal. By the way, how much attention did the wall in your son's new house receive?
That
for the-
actually got
That was a great tweet.
big props to my son's fiance, who is so perfectionist that when they talked about doing it, she's the one who got the painter tape out, and on one of their kitchen walls they have like an official giant NCAA bracket. So he sent a picture to our family group chat of that. You can find it on my timeline of that wall with the painter's tape bracket, and then he's got 4 TVs set up 4 relatively large TVs.
If we're talking about cheese fatigue, and I shouldn't
We
even be
really
bringing
weren't,
this,
but go ahead.
if we are, and I shouldn't be bringing this up because I am kind of hungry at the moment. Do you guys see Scotty Scheffler's Masters Champions dinner menu, which is almost the exact same as 2022? Because I remember we talked about this on the podcast. We talked about what our ideal Masters Champions dinner menu would be. This menu sounds amazing. It's all pretty much the same. Here we go. Appetizers, cheeseburger sliders, firecracker shrimp, and his dad, Papa Chef's meatball and ravioli bites. A ravioli bite, sign me up.
I'm good right there. You had me at appetizers.
First course in 2022 was a tortilla soup. This time it's Texas-style chili. Yum. Main course again, a wood-fired cowboy steak or blackened redfish. The sides, family-style mac and cheese, jalapeno creamed corn, soy-glazed Brussels sprouts, chipotle lime roasted sweet potatoes, and for dessert, a warm chocolate chip cookie skillet with vanilla bean ice cream.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What is Texas-style chili? What
makes it different?
What makes chili Texas style?
Does it have beans in it?
Yes. Maybe some of the spices too.
All right. Is there anything on that list you would not eat, Paul?
Well, there are a few things I cannot eat.
You cannot eat?
Cannot eat. Yeah, anything with the word cream in it.
Texas-style chili, is characterized by its lack of beans and tomatoes.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the spices, dried chilies.
Anything cream because you're watching your figure or because there's medical issues underlying?
Yeah, the cream and the ice cream and the cream corn, non-starters.
See, cheese fatigue.
Yep.
Cheese fatigue. Did say cheese fatigue.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Son of a biscuit.
So wait a minute. Is that winning behavior or do we still have to cover winning behavior?
We still need to cover that.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
I see you. Let's go.
Can you display winning behavior? You have to consistently display winning behavior.
That's winning behavior.
You got to define what winning behavior is and hold people to that standard.
Yes.
All right. So Southwest decided to get rid of free check bags. Yep. Double thumbs down from Dani.
Is that going to make it on the list of ineptitude?
Power poll of ineptitude. They are in others receiving votes right now, pending further consideration. I will say, my wife, nobody travels heavier than my wife, and the one reason we have been frequent flyers on Southwest the last 20-plus years is because of the 2 free bags per person rule.
Here's what I don't understand about this.
It's why we tolerate all the other stuff that goes on with Southwest.
Apparently, they commissioned a study a couple years ago looking into this, and the study found that all the money they would make by charging for bags, they would likely lose more than that by losing their market share because that's why everybody picks Southwest.
Well, apparently it's an activist investor, some billionaire investor who, and he's like, well, you're leaving these revenue streams on the table,
of course, that's how it is.
Get a pop in the stock, he sells, and then boom, the rest of us are out of free bags for the rest of our lives. So there you go.
I was also not a fan when they posted on social media, it's not like we traded Luca because Southwest is headquartered in Dallas.
That was pretty funny.
Wow.
But this is still pretty bad for Southwest.
From the top rope there.
If the Dallas was smart, they'd at least we let our players take their bags on the flight.
Okay. Who's the one who put in here movies and TV shows?
These both are mine.
Okay.
I saw this twice in a couple different shows that I'm watching, and it just drives me nuts. Okay. When you're watching some kind of thriller and the husband or the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the wife, whatever, and finds a significant other, and there's like, I don't know, murderers coming, assassins, whatever.
T-Rex.
And they don't know, it's in the family or the girlfriend or the boyfriend don't know what's happening, and they come and they're like, we have to go right now. These freaking people stop, and then they say, what's going on? Stop, you're scaring me. And I'm like, dude is telling you you're about to get killed and you want to like have a conversation about it?
Don't you want to know what's going on?
That's fine. Have the conversation in the freaking car when you're driving away. Like, the one I saw was like her husband was an FBI agent, and the way the series had gone, there was all kinds of crap going on. It couldn't have been that big of a surprise that bad things were about to go down. And yet she was like, stop, you're scaring me. No, don't stop. We can talk on the way.
Yeah, time is of the essence usually in those situations.
Darren, isn't the whole point of ingesting a movie to relax? Stop thinking.
Darren, how do you relax?
Let cinema take you somewhere you've never been before. You know, just go ahead, suspend.
Okay, Nicole Kidman over there.
Suspend some of the mental processes for an hour and 48 minutes. You know, enjoy the movie.
It is not winning behavior. And you know what? If they end
up
up dead, it's definitely not winning behavior.
Okay.
Okay.
How about the guy or guys or crew or whoever's responsible?
Live news breaking as we record Stephon Diggs to the Patriots.
It's Stephon Diggs to the Patriots. Wow. Okay.
I enjoyed this story. This was one that did make me chuckle. Yes?
I mean, are the Patriots and Robert Kraft, are they giving out golden toilets? They've spent more money than anyone so far in the offseason, right?
If anybody's got one, it's Tom Brady.
So apparently the golden toilet that went viral a few years ago, it was at an English palace. Apparently it was stolen, and then they caught the said perpetrator. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yes.
They steal a toilet.
They went back in with crowbars later in the day. It was apparently in the mansion where Winston Churchill was born. But my favorite part, there's two of my favorite part of the story. One is the guy who was one of the guys who stole it, was doing reconnaissance and used said golden toilet the day before they robbed it and was quoted as saying it was splendid.
Do you buy a car without test driving it?
My other... And just the mere fact that you're thinking, hey, let's go and not only steal this, but let's, I don't know, pawn it? Like, how do you pawn
a
$6 million toilet?
How do you steal a toilet out of somewhere? It's not like it's small. You can put in a bag.
Big bag,
These are all better left unanswered.
I don't know if that's winning behavior that you would actually...
He pulled it off.
He did.
All right. I'm not sure that either one of those stories really improved anyone or anything around here, so I'm going to go down swinging.
Okay.
Here's a story.
Paul's taking matters into his own hands.
Is this winning behavior or non-winning behavior?
Scientist says, I've been studying the brain for 20 years. People who stay sharp throughout life do these 5 things. You want to hear these 5 things?
This is winning behavior.
Another list.
Number 1, did you remember any of your dreams from this past week? Number 2.
I don't remember if I remember.
Brain food. Have you eaten anchovies, pesto, or lentils in the past week?
Not in the past week.
Probably not.
Number 3, have you had meaningful interactions with at least 3 people this past week?
Well, you guys are
this
2.
Is 2.
Okay. So you're 2/3 of the way there.
And then I probably talked to my wife.
It says, and they must be positive, which rules out most of Darren's interactions.
Sorry, Darren.
Positive social interactions trigger a certain release of whatever I can't pronounce, and it's good for your brain. Okay, did you have an adventure outdoors this past week? All you video gamers better figure something out, because regular nature exposure offers measurable benefits for brain function and mental health.
I was outside.
Thanks for bringing that up when it's just getting to be 100 degrees, Paul.
And number 5, did either one of you write in your journal this past week?
I think I might have.
You have a journal?
Yeah, you're supposed to have a journal. It's good. It's good for you to write
Give
your
us an
thoughts out.
example.
Everybody knows that, Darren.
I'm
I mean,
not
it's
gonna
right
give you an
here. I mean,
example.
there's science that
See?
proves that, Darren. Right there.
What does that mean? I'm going to be happy or healthy? What was the list?
Your brain is going to be good.
My brain is good.
Yeah. For people who stay sharp throughout life, you do those 5
See, I'm getting sharper.
positive habits there. So
You should get a journal.
When T. Higgins and Jamar Chase got their contracts, Paul, did you think to yourself, why didn't they just do that with Anquan and Larry?
yeah, I did. Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. And
there's a lot of people that think that the Bengals have really messed this up.
Okay. Well, guess what? You're going to blame Joe Burrow, because from what I can tell from the outside looking in, the de facto GM is Joe Burrow right now. I mean,
It feels like it.
he pretty much was making demands. I mean, I like Joe Burrow. He's one of my top 3 favorite players in the league. But if things keep trending like this, 10 years from now, he's going to be the new Aaron Rodgers. We'll see. We'll see where that goes.
He's going to be in a cave somewhere?
Extremely high maintenance is what I'm saying.
Okay.
He's not going to be talking to anyone in his family?
And Darren, it's not
He's
a
going to
cave.
be on Pat McAfee show every week?
It's a darkness retreat in Ashland, Oregon, where I used to live once upon a time. Ashland,
Wait
Oregon.
a minute. We talked
You have
about
a lot of ties to Aaron Rodgers,
Known for
Paul.
the Shakespeare Festival, among other things. Ashland, Oregon, just across the California border. South of Medford, Oregon.
Wait, what is it known for?
The Shakespeare Festival.
Isn't there somewhere in Northern California that's known for like you going deep in the forest and everybody's growing illegal drugs?
That's Humboldt County.
Okay,
Is
I
that
was
all of
right.
California?
Yes. Wow. Okay. All right. Anyway, I guess I'll save the latest because, obviously I'm on the cutting edge of everything with a phone like this. That's, by the way, our boss, Surf, looked
Wait,
at my phone.
did you get a new one?
No. But I was at lunch.
still
and
cracking
our,
it?
Our boss, Surf, literally, I'm going to reenact this. He saw my phone. He goes,
Yeah.
and then just because I have 18 or 19 cracks in it at this point. So
All he's got to do is look
I'll
at
get
your
to
practice
it.
videos.
It's an off-season initiative. I'll get to it at some point. Smartphone makers, I'll leave you with this, are showing off the latest and greatest trifold phones. Smartphones with 3 displays. So it's
They've
sort
had those in the past, though. It's so big.
So it's a phone like this, and then it opens up 3.
The display
Into
is
a
helpful,
monitor.
but
Yeah.
that's
You know what
so
that's helpful
unnecessary.
for? You can just do work wherever you are.
That's so unnecessary. No one wants to put that in a pocket or a purse or pull that out and you're having a full monitor in your hands. A cell phone is supposed to be easy.
But you can watch videos and you can stream videos. So when you're waiting for your bags to come off the baggage claim at Southwest, you can be watching your videos there as you travel.
Cardinals
That's what we
Underground on
need.
YouTube.
Higher screen time.
That's right. You can watch Cardinals Underground on your trifold phone sometime soon, and that'll do it. All brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.